Okay, it is 12 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Sarah Untersea. I am the School Family and Community Engagement Consultant here at Region 10 Education Service Center. We also have Jim Wright with us from Partners Resource Network. And we are so excited today to bring you Pam Sepulvedo. She is one of our other consultants here at Region 10, and she is going to present for us today on some low-tech communication tips for parents and caregivers. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Pam to get started.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm excited to be here and share with everyone a little bit about low-tech AAC. So we will jump right in, and I'm going to share my screen and the presentation. One second, and I will get it.
And Pam, I did drop the link to the presentation in the chat, so any participants can click on that. I know you have some great resources that people may want to download, so that is available.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it. Yes, everything, and of course, it didn't start at the very beginning. I apologize. Here we go. There's the beginning of the slides. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, everything, I have a resource section at the end, and then most of the resources, there's a link on the slide. So hopefully there'll be lots of resources for you as we jump right in. So my name is Pam Sepulvedo. I'm a speech language pathologist and a consultant here at Region 10. And I've worked with children of all ages, from babies to actually young adults in their 20s. And over the last 23 plus years. And I've worked with, my passion is working with families and children and young adults, and really connecting that that bridge, the communication in school and homes. So primarily I've worked in public schools most of my career, but I've also worked in private practice as well as home health. So that's just a tiny little bit about me. And again, I am one of the SLP consultants here at Region 10. So on our agenda today, what we're going to do is we're going to explore some ways that we can supplement spoken words with other means of communication. So sometimes children and adults are not able to use their verbal expression at all or very well. So we're going to discuss ways in which we can encourage your child to share their thoughts, their needs, and their wants through a variety of no-tech or low-tech, augmentative, and alternative communication systems. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So first of all, we're going to discuss what is augmentative and alternative communication. So augmentative communication means we're adding to someone's verbal speech. And alternative means we use another means instead of speech. So, and sometimes individuals use AAC through their whole life, while others might just use it for a short period of time while they're developing verbal speech, or they may use it in combination with verbal speech. And so we would develop, typically when someone is using AAC as a means of communication, they use it in a system. We call a system. And we're going to get into that next. So types of AAC. We've got no-tech and low-tech, which we're going to concentrate on today. And a lot of times this is lumped into one category and we call low-tech. But but we're going to kind of divide it out just a little bit today. So no tech requires nothing else besides your body. And we'll get into some examples in the next couple of slides. Low tech required something external, but no battery or no electronics. High tech is more of a complex electronic device, and that permits storage and retrieval of a message. And typically, almost always, there's some kind of speech output. There's a lot of those kind of devices, and many times now individuals are using iPads as a lot of verbal speech output devices. And then, as I just mentioned earlier, many times we have systems that we use. We don't just use one type of AAC, we use a combination of high tech, low tech, and maybe some verbal in there as well. All right, so here, what we're going to primarily talk about today, or we're only going to talk about today, is no tech and low tech. And we're going to talk just a little bit about the no tech, and then we'll spend most of our time on low tech. So no tech is just using your body to communicate. And we all do that to augment our speech. But here's a list of the no tech. It could be anything like nodding, shaking our head, blinking. So, you know, we have some individuals who have a lot of movement with their body, and then some who have very minimal movement with their body. And so they may only be able to move their head from side to side or up and down, or blink their eyes, or barely move their limbs. But any of that can be used as a means of communication. And so I have a list there of the no tech communication that we can use with our body. Like I just said, I started to read the list: blinking, closing eyes, moving your eyes. You can have the system where one blink is yes, two blinks no, three blinks maybe. Even as simple as that can be a communication system, a no tech communication system, if that is all that an individual is able to do. We've got waving, turning our head, shaking our head. So that's yes and no. We can wave high, pointing, moving and kicking legs. You know, we've got babies that kick legs and smile, and that indicates happy. So that's communication: clapping hands, snapping fingers. And then on the other hand, we've got low tech, which can be anywhere from writing to drawing, to spelling words by pointing to a communication board with letters on it. We've got pointing to photos and pictures and written words and schedules. That's all in the low tech category. So we'll go into a little bit more about no tech. So we've got gestures. And I put here the first step to communication. Really, I should have put a first step to communication, because there's many other steps to communication, but that's probably a whole other presentation, because one of a really beginning step to communication would be like eye contact and that kind of thing. So, but I digress as a SLP. But gestures very important. I've put on here on this slide some of the very common universal gestures, like an okay or a wave or a point, and hands over our eyes, or these are very common universal gestures that you can begin to use with your child. That doesn't require any materials, very easy, very simple to use. And here's just a little bit of information about using gestures and how to encourage. This slide is going to be about just a little data about gestures, and the other one would be how to promote and encourage using gestures. And so one of the questions about not only using gestures, but just ACC in general, is if I use augmentative alternative communication, will it hinder verbal speech development? And that's actually quite the opposite. It's a bridge and helps an individual understand how important and the power of communication. So any way that we can help an individual understand that power of communication is super important. And so I've listed here that there's a strong link between gesture and speech in communication development. And we see gestures develop long before spoken language in typical development. Children who produce more gestures early on are shown to have larger expressive vocabularies. A child who points to show an object will likely learn that object within 3 months. Sorry, I have to move my little box over here. All right. And so children combine gestures with words before they combine words together. So they may say up ball, or they'll do this ball. So they'll start to combine their gestures and words before they put 2 and 3 words together. And then a child's ability to use gesture typically predicts their storytelling abilities, which is super important to be able to relay messages. And then children with expressive language delays have greater language gains when their parents use gestures and words at the same time during interactions with their children. So this is some really powerful research and information that you can use to empower your child and begin to understand the power of this no-tech AAC. And here are some just really straightforward ways that you can start to encourage no-tech AAC in the home. No materials needed. And one of the ways is just start to point and hold up objects. So pointing is considered a gesture in everyday activities. Just start pointing, holding up objects and pointing them, saying the word. You're going to start increasing the vocabulary. Use gestures that demonstrate the meaning of the word. These are called iconic gestures. And those are things like if we have a ball and then say, let's go get the ball. Do we want to bounce the ball? Do we need to get a drink? Okay, so we're starting to teach the child about words are symbols for things that might not be there. Okay, let's go get a drink. And then we go pick up the cup. Okay, and look, we're going to look with our eyes. And so we can do, those are some things that we can do to begin to develop those gestures with our child. Be sure to use the gestures and the words at the same time. That's going to reinforce the meaning of the word and that gesture with your child. And then when your child starts to begin to use the gesture, acknowledge it by copying the gesture and saying the word that matches the gesture. It's just like when you're encouraging verbal language and your child starts to say mama or dada, you repeat that. The child then begins to realize, oh, that's a word. They accidentally start saying mama, dada, and then you say that in front of the parent. They start to identify and realize that verbalization, that's a symbol, is associated with that person, and that means that person. So you're if you acknowledge that the child, that symbol, that gesture, ball, oh, you're saying ball, then they start to realize that's what that gesture means. And then just start making gestures part of your everyday interactions with your child. And then you start realizing, oh, I'm going to do it more and more. I use my hands a lot. I try to keep them down when I'm doing presentations like this. But as a SLP, I automatically use gestures so much because working with children, that's just what I do. But you'll find yourself, if you're more aware of it, you'll begin to use gestures more often. All right, so let's jump into low tech. Low tech is you're going to need things outside of your body, something else, some materials. And so this right here, the first then, is probably one of the most, it's very simple, but very easy and very powerful tool to support communication. And it can serve several functions. It can communicate expectations for your child. It can reduce anxiety. Okay, I've got to do this task, but then I'm going to get, and it's going to be, the then is going to be a rewarding task for your child. If typically this is used if your child is not wanting to do the first. The first might be, let's read a book, and then we get to do something that is rewarding. First, we need to eat our green beans, then we get to have our, and whatever it is, have our Jell-O, have our whatever is rewarding. First, we have to brush our teeth, and then we get to read a book, whatever that might be. And this is teaching, they can also make choices, because then you can have pictures where they get to choose their reward. You can use, and I've listed in the resources some different places that you can go to grab pictures. And I've also listed the first then visual, but you can also, in one of the best ways is to take pictures off your phone and take pictures of your child doing the activity, or actual pictures. And this will help with vocabulary, and then it's actually the real picture. So you don't have to go looking for symbols and pictures and things like that. You can just take a picture off your phone and then print it. All right. So one, I'm going to start going the next several slides are some different activities, everyday activities, using some low tech. So here's one that is snack time. So if you have a child that is taking in nutrition orally, this would be a good one to do. Not all children do. And we've got some other activities. We've got bath time, we've got story time, we've got lots of other activities, because not all children, some children are tube fed and do not eat orally. But if you do have a child that takes food orally, this is a wonderful time. This is the lower end. This is just a 14 cell. And you can start off as we would as a child who is typically developing with verbal language. You would start off with just one word. You would just start off with cookie. Here's a cookie. You would just point, cookie. And then you would progress to I want cookie, or maybe more cookies, more crackers. I want 2 crackers. And so you would just continue with that. And what you want to do is you want to model. You want to show what you want the child to do. You would be pointing to this and showing the child what you expect. This is a step up. If you have a child after you've progressed from the 14 cell, this is a 28 cell. and you can progress to more cells and more advanced language. Then we have bath time. This is a wonderful, another wonderful activity, another way to promote language. And again, pointing to the pictures, modeling, and showing what you want from your child. The next two are potty time. And this again is another developmental activity. This is great for sequencing and lots of action, pulling up, pulling down, sitting, and you can take out pictures and you can start with just 1, 2, or 3, and then add in more levels of sequencing. This one is in Spanish. So we've got some English and Spanish versions. All the slides that I'm pulling from here are on one resource that are listed at the end of the slide deck. And then another wonderful activity is song time. And so we can also learn our body parts and talk about head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And this is a great interactive activity to work on some physical movement and different things like that. Here's another one. Developing emotional vocabulary is another important communication milestone that we need to work on, and another way that we want our children to communicate. And because we know different behaviors are a way of communicating. And so this is a wonderful way. I feel, and how do they feel? And what, of course, you want to model and help them understand and give them the language. I feel happy. I feel sad. I see that your eyes, you are crying. Are you feeling sad right now? This one is making scrambled eggs for maybe a young adult or older child that has a higher level of language. And this is a wonderful family time opportunity to get everybody in the family and use this AAC. So what we want to remember is remember, communication is more than just requesting. These are all the things that we do. If you think about in communication, we greet, we part, we say hello, we say goodbye, we express feelings and opinions, we ask questions, make comments, we initiate conversations, we end conversations, we maintain conversations. Think about how we do that. We tell stories, we joke around, we deny, we protest, we refuse, although you may not want your child to do that, but they need to be able to do this. We expand on ideas, we direct the action of others, we complain, and we use strategies when misunderstood to correct when we're not understood. We want to be able to say, no, that's not what I meant. And as I talked earlier, we want to model. We want to show what we expect, and we want to allow enough pause time to give our children time to point to the pictures. We want to be motivating with our children, and we want to not just ask questions and not test them, and always have these pictures available and make sure everyone else knows how to use the AAC devices, and have fun with it, like language, not make it a chore and they go, oh no, I don't want to use that. And then another thing is that we want to collaborate with the educators on your child's team at school. We want to understand the language level, their sensory needs, their cognitive and academic abilities, and make sure that we're not underestimating or overestimating where they are. We want to get right in that sweet spot so that we are developing and using the communication systems that are just right and appropriate for our child, and share what's working, what's not working at home. So collaborating with our partners and everyone that's working with your child in the home setting is really going to be very important in developing that AA system that we talked about, and combining the low tech, the no tech, and then also if we combine that high tech, you also want to have some of this low tech and no tech as well in a combination, because as we know, technology, there's always going to be some glitches and some failure in that high tech world. It always happens. All right. And so here's the resource page with some of the different resources that I talked about. And that is it. I wanted to leave just a couple minutes in case there were any questions. Sarah, were there any questions in the chat?
I do see one, but it looks like you already answered that. And that was just if basic sign language such as sorry, more, and others may be considered no or low tech communication.
Yes, definitely. For sure. Yes.
Okay, I think that was our only question that we had. So I think that we are all finished. Thank you so much for your time. Your presentation was fantastic. We did record this, and so it will be available on the Region 10 website here within about a week or so.
Yeah, Pam, I want to thank you for bringing this up. And one of the points that I was really happy to hear is you stressing that the technology is not replacing verbal development. It's to augment and to help the child gain that confidence and that experience to grasp those skills and everything. And because I think as a parent, that's something that we struggled with getting on the same page with our educators about. It's not just to be a crutch for them. It's a tool to help further develop his skills and everything. And so I'm so happy to hear that you have this in your presentation. That was a big tenet of that.
Yes. Yeah, great. Thanks for reiterating that it's a bridge, and it's a tool, and it's a way for them to learn and continue to learn as they develop, if they're going to develop that verbal speech. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Sarah, you're muted.
I was on mute. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we are happy to get those answered for you. Thank you so much.